company actually is based in Lower Austria for some reasons, and we have also incorporated now in Palo. So we have lots of activities in the US, as we'll hear later. We have about 20 people, mostly in research and development, and marketing and sales. So why we kind of started to work on that is basically 90% of the time you spend indoors. You don't work outside that much. 7 of 10 people now own a smartphone, so it's a good application platform. And most of the time you use the internet on your phone indoors. So your mobile traffic, 65% is indoors. So what we developed over the last couple of years is a platform for indoor navigation. For this, we use actually Wi-Fi. That was the starting point. To use access points to determine where you are in the building. That basically has stopped because of Apple. So now we focus on IP concepts. The reason is very simple. In iOS 7, Apple killed the access to the Wi-Fi drivers to measure, to get the signal strength. So there's no way to measure the signal strength, which you basically use to determine where you are in the building. More about that a little bit later. There are some workaround solutions in the market still, which do some tricks to measure that, and via the cloud to determine where you are. But now in iOS 8, that's also killed, because Apple starts to switch the MAC address of the iPhone random. We don't know how often it will change, but basically it will change. Nobody knows exactly how often, but basically you can change the MAC address every 10 seconds if you want. And Apple does that as long as you're not connected to the Wi-Fi network. So for indoor navigation, you don't want to be connected to a network. It's not necessary, it shouldn't be necessary. Especially because of the fact that sometimes the connectivity just drops. In addition to that, we use the sensors you have on your phone. Accelerometer, compass, gyroscopes, all that stuff, and we fuse that into precision. To enable you to build applications, we provide an SDK which abstracts everything. Basically, you install it in your development environment, and then you can just start to use it, and you will deliver a location for you. On top of that, we provide a map viewer, which is pretty simple. You know all Google Maps, there's a map. In this case, it has just a map of the building. You can use other map viewers as well. Ours is, let's say, pretty simple. It's a PNG file where we will display your position, the direction you're going to, and additional meta information like you see it already. It's like a shopping mall where you have a banking machine and stores, whatever. And yes, we do it on Android and we do it on Apple. Somebody asked us also if we do it on Windows Phone. No, we don't do it. But we can do it easily because our was actually implemented in C++, so it's easy to work out of that. We've done some prototypes with devices, which probably will be pretty useful more in industrial environments. We see a lot of virtual reality applications coming up more in industrial applications. This is combined by a cloud. Cloud has some purpose in this case, and the first of that is we have to store the map and some additional information. And actually, when you walk into a building, you open up our map, it will load our application, it will load a map into the location. Because you can't be online all the time in the building. You lose the connection, Wi-Fi, 3G, it's covered. So everything has to be offline. Everywhere yourself. So how is that done? There are basically two approaches to that. The first one is proximity. And I just did a simple map here. It's a rectangle. And in that room we installed basically 4 beacons. And you see one phone. And that phone sees all the beacons. Yeah? So basically we are browsing all the time for beacon signals. And based on the strength of the signal, we can calculate where you are. This requires actually that the application knows the map and the position of the beacons in the building. And that's what we actually store in the cloud and in the app. Based on that, we can then calculate where you are. Proximity is one approach, and proximity is very popular nowadays for marketing purposes, but in our experiences, it doesn't scale. It doesn't work in large venues. Our largest venue now is 60,000 square meters, where we're doing indoor navigation, and that's really big. So basically, with proximity, at a certain point, you will fail. So what we actually do, we call it fingerprints. And that's a technique where somebody will walk through the building and take at all the positions, which is here marked red, a measurement, and store it to the cloud. That measurement is basically all the signal strengths from all beacons, which the phone sees, to calculate this for the fingerprint, and we'll save it to the cloud. So we have a special application called a mobile measurement tool. Somebody walks through the building and takes the measurements one time. That takes some time, so we have more ideas on how to do that easier in the future, automated. But basically, when you load now our map, you will load also our fingerprints. And so by that, we can then kind of, again, browse for the signal and look up the closest position. And then we know again where you are. And when we know where you are in the building, you can do lots of applications and stuff like that. And that's what we are actually doing. Now you think, that's not all. It's true. We have also a tool where you can kind of load maps. Usually, as I said, it's a PNG file which you load, where you then can determine the position of the beacons, you can determine or define zones, you can define points of interest. So basically, we store a lot of metadata. Because if you want to kind of look for a shop, a banking machine, you have to be able to search for it. And that is currently then in a Java application, which you can run on Windows or on a Mac. In the future, everything will be cloud-based. So basically, you can sit there, just upload it, do all that stuff. We add them with the measurement tool called the fingerprints, and then we're able to navigate. Most of you have heard about proximity. And proximity has a certain limitation. That's why we kind of focus on that more universal approach. Because when we talk about proximity, most people, I'm getting close to a beacon, so then I get a pop-up. So that's just one beacon. So our approach to define actually zones, areas, enables us to issue, for example, a coupon for everybody in a shopping mall, or just to trigger actions in a certain area of the mall. I'm sorry for it, but my sites are German. I just realized that before I came here. I don't do that usually. But I think that doesn't really matter. Not enough actual pictures. Yeah, so that's what we're doing. In the back end, so that's one part. People want to navigate through stores, through an airport, whatever. When we talk about shopping malls, the owners of the venue, they're also very interested in kind of like what do people do, where do they walk, where did they start. So we try to provide a lot of statistics, analytics. One popular one is a heat map, so in a shopping mall you see where people concentrate, where they stop. That's kind of the data we're collecting actually. So when you pass through the building, we're collecting your position all the time. And that's a very, very, people love it. One special project I want to kind of, actually that's my last slide, so I tend to be quick, so that there's time for some questions. What we recently did, we did a project where we developed a navigation solution for visually impaired people at the airport of San Francisco, which we tested a couple of weeks ago. Basically, it's a navigation solution which kind of talks. If you have ever seen kind of the accessibility mode of iPhone or on iOS, the phone is basically reading to you what's in the display. We use that audio architecture, and the app is reading to you. We extended that a little bit so that basically the application reads to you what's close by. And that was a really fascinating experience because we tested this bunch of people basically, the only ones who can really test that. And they walked to the airport and when they stood there and they said, wow, I'm so surprised. And nobody ever told me that there is a kiosk, there's a bookstore, whatever. Yeah? And with that, we can basically navigate them from the curb to the gate. This is the restroom. So that's kind of our most prominent project right now. And it's actually quite a fascinating project. It's about 60,000 square meters, just on terminal right now. And for this, we used 300 beacons, planes, beacons, just firing every 2 seconds actually. That's just sufficient for that. So we use beacons really just as Wi-Fi. Yeah, and that's basically my talk. And I think there's still some time left for questions.
Danke, Hannes, für den tollen Vortrag. Wir haben noch Fragen.
Thank you very much for this presentation. I love reading about Windows and all the awesome projects. But regarding these analytics, how high is the percentage of people you can really interact because they have to install the app, they have to enable Bluetooth, and probably they also have to open the app?
Yeah, you have to use the app basically. So basically, we can just track people who can use it basically. Yeah, and sure, that's one of the limitations. We know from other research institutions that basically like 15 to 20% of the people have Bluetooth turned on all the time. So they basically track Bluetooth signals. But we see kind of even you have a low percentage of using that application, you kind of do them the mask to kind of extrapolate. So it's not really required that everybody has to install it or needs to install it. People are still very keen to kind of even just track that little percentage. And there's actually one very popular thing in analytics, but all the shopping malls in the US do. They basically track people kind of by Wi-Fi. And that becomes obsolete with iOS 8 because the MAC address changes all the time. So when you walk through the mall, then all the guys with the Wi-Fi, they can't watch anymore because the data is garbage. In our case, the data is anonymous because the whose beacons don't know anything. As long as there's no kind of additional application which requires an authentication, like Facebook login, there's no way that it can be. So people feel very safe from that point of view.
So it's about 5 to 10% or below.
Yeah. It will be, I mean, there's the point, many people think like, what the fuck do I need user navigation? I think everybody was thinking the same 5-10 years ago when first navigation systems for hardware started. Like you ask your friend who was driving with the car with GPS, like, hey, stupid. Now everybody does it. When you walk down the streets of Vienna, you're moving maps to find a nice restaurant, whatever. The same will happen indoors. And when you have ever been at like the big airports, you can get really easily lost. And there are many more applications which are more interesting. One application people are very into is find your car in a parking lot. One extremely popular application we're selling right now is meeting room finder. You know, you're in a big office building, where the fuck is the meeting room? Then let's get even crazier. You have shared desks. So one day you sit at this desk, next to this desk, and where do you find your colleague? So that's all applications which are which just become possible by navigation. And then, you know, we'll have a high percentage. If it's kind of, if you're IBM employee, and every IBM employee has his IBM application where you can look up his colleagues and whatever, and come to an office in London and just navigate to the meeting room, even being there the first time. You will use it in the future. By that, you will learn a lot about kind of flow of people through lots of end users. That's still at the very starting point, definitely. We see this year basically the year of proof of concepts. So we talked to a lot of large venues, shopping malls, airports, airlines. They have even more interesting use cases, and we'll see next year this kind of the first big installations.
One small follow-up is use fingerprinting. And I noticed that fingerprinting is very a big thing to measure all these fingerprints, and it depends on the smartphone. How much is the task, how big is it to scan these fingerprints?
So on San Francisco Airport it took us 4 days, which is kind of okay. We did it in parallel with mounting the beacons, which is also I mean, there's one point you might not even think about, and that's the point is that the quality of the fingerprints will deteriorate over time, because that buildings change all the time. So at these large venues, we face the challenge that there are basically construction sites 365 days. That was basically the first thing SFO told us. And for this purpose, we're working on something which is called SLAM. That's simultaneous localization mapping, where basically everybody who is walking through and have that application running, or any application which is integrated, or in the end, it's integrated in the phone, will contribute passes to the building, which we will use to update the fingerprints. So that's a lot of rocket science basically. For this we have some PhDs, one from CERN, and they do the mathematical modeling for that. And that's kind of then the next step, to actually automatically create maps in buildings.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Two quick questions. One, if you have, let's say, 5% or 10% of people who use Bluetooth right now or allow you to use their phone, do you know how successful it can be in incentivizing them to turn it on, for example, by saying, okay, there's a coupon, if you turn on this stuff, you're going to get localized here?
Yeah.
Does it work, or
yeah,
not at all?
I mean, if you ask me if it works for me, I say no. I don't care about coupons in the shopping mall or whatever, because I walk in and I want to buy them. But we know that like 30% of shopping mall visitors are willing to share their position, to receive coupons, discounts, whatever. So maybe you're not the guys for that. But there are a lot of people out who are willing to share information about them, including their position, to get some discounts or whatever.
So looking at easy 35% of people going to get it. Second question is that if you have the data, movement data, are you in works of using the data, for example, to optimize the skate path or optimize pathing through stores?
That's what the venue owners thinking about. Yeah, they are interested in doing this stuff. We talked to one shopping mall, very large one. They are actually interested in the kind of analysis where people pass by to just kind of have different pricing for stores. Another application we are going to have engagement to talk with them. They want, in kind of security, you have the open withdrawal devices on the wall where people go by and check in. And they actually say, we want to get rid of all that. We just put beacons on the wall. You get an iPod. You have the app on. You have to have it run. And we just track you through the building. So there are many, many applications coming up, especially in asset tracking. It includes human assets.
What about half open spaces like stadiums and guiding people to their place in a 80,000 people stadium?
Yeah, that's what we're going to do now. Yeah? I mean, this will become a very interesting challenge because at this point you have kind of you can use also GPS signals. That's the point. I mean, that's what we want to do.
How high is the precision? I mean, can you navigate in centimeters? Or?
No. We don't do centimeters right now. We get down to a meter, less this, which is sufficient for most applications people think of.
But there is other things coming up for centimeter precision.
Yeah. I mean, that's something where I always say, guys, I don't care if it's 10 centimeters, if it's a meter, it's sufficient. Because what we actually focus on now is kind of the accuracy of maps. Because it doesn't help to kind of locate you down to 10 centimeters. That's interesting if you get to shelves in the supermarket. But then search doesn't work either because of other problems. What actually all that venues face is the challenge that the maps are accurate. It's a nightmare if you kind of have on your map, here's a Starbucks, and actually it's a Walgreens, whatever. And we talk to some indoor map providers. And they have the funny ideas like sending people into the shopping malls to update. Yeah? And that's kind of where we actually now engage with the big venues to integrate into their building information systems. So basically that the maps are updated from their building information systems. All the large venues have now databases where they store everything down to the electrical power. We want to integrate that to make it a good experience.
Natürlich gibt es die Fragen wieder in der Pause zu beantworten. Und dann kann es für die neue Vortrag.